Hello everyone, Seatruck here. Yes, I did suffer from a sunburn, learn from my mistake, wear a hat, sunscreen, use a parasol. That's not the point of this video. Today I want to talk about the submarines in Subnautica and Subnautica Below Zero, which I will just be calling Below Zero to avoid saying the word Subnautica as many times. So a couple things off the top. This should not be getting into any sort of major spoiler territory, but I will be talking about like the submarines you can unlock and upgrades and stuff you can do with them. So like some mechanical spoilers that way, but I cannot see any reason why any sort of plot thing will come up. The other big thing is I will be focusing on specifically the submarines. That is the Seamoth and Cyclops from Subnautica versus the Seatruck from Below Zero, and not the prawn suit, which is in both games, though it functions slightly differently between them, where like those slight differences, like they exist, but it's not really the point. It's fulfilling the same function. And I want to talk about these because I think it's really interesting to just look at sort of comparison points and to when you have a series, and particularly with Subnautica and Below Zero, there's a lot that's really similar between them. And so looking at the little changes they made, the way that they adjusted the formula between one game to the next is really interesting to examine and something that I've been enjoying thinking about. So I just wanted to think about it on camera because that seemed like fun. So just to kind of establish what the vehicles are, most people who've played the games are probably familiar, but the Seamoth is a small personal submersible that's fairly quick and nimble. And the Cyclops from Subnautica is a large submarine. It is said in the thing is about 40 feet long, I think they say, but it is quite large. You can still man it with one person. It's supposed to be manned with three, but you can man it with one. It's a game, you know. But it is functioning in a space that is different. It is much more like a mobile base than it is the nimble. I would basically equivalent it to a larger ship versus a smaller like fighter if I was doing a comparison to like sci-fi type stuff. The Seatruck is kind of filling both roles. It's a lot murkier. It's a lot more. We'll get into that in a moment. So it has its base truck part that is somewhat similar to the Seamoth. It is small, fairly nimble, fairly quick. I don't know how its numbers specifically compared to the Seamoth, but it feels fairly comparable in terms of speed and things like that. But you can get modules for it that do specific things. So, for example, you can get a storage module that allows you to carry stuff. It's got storage units in it. You can make a fabricator module that allows you to make stuff. So there's, I want to say 6 different modules. I'd have to run through them to confirm because I did not have a written list anywhere I can see. But there's a bunch of different modules that you can get, and you can extend, like you can link them together and extend out the length of your Seatruck. The more modules you attach to the back of the Seatruck, the slower it goes. That's kind of the cost you pay. There is an upgrade thing you can get to help with that a little bit, but it's still a pretty major factor. So what I think is really interesting here is you have two submarines that are playing very distinct, clear-cut roles in Subnautica. You have the Seamoth. You're quick, lets you explore. You get it earlier on. It's the first submarine you probably are getting access to. I mean, you could theoretically get access to the Cyclops first, but that seems extraordinarily unlikely in normal play patterns. And it lets you get around the map. Importantly, it lets you get oxygen around the map in ways that lets you breathe, which is really important. And you should have seen screenshots of these that I will have taken. So the Seamoth's role is very distinct. It is a quick exploration. The Cyclops is much slower than Seamoth. It's much more unwieldy, and you can build inside of it. It takes damage like a base, not like the Seamoth does. So the Seamoth, when it takes damage, it has a hull meter, and the prawn suit also has a hull meter. It's just a 100 value, and that goes down, and you can pull out the repair tool and restore it. I think it's just like it shows 100%, but it's actually some other figure in the back end because different things will do different amounts of damage to them. But the Cyclops, instead of doing that, like it has an HP value that you can see, but it'll spring leaks that you have to go like on the outside of your submarine, and repair kind of like leaks in a base. And you can build stuff inside of it. There's a good bit of floor space for that. So you can build all the sort of like interior modules you would in a base. You can plant a garden inside there. You can make a bed. You can build a fabricator. You can build tons of additional storage. It also has the ability to have a docking. It has a docking bay that you can store either the Seamoth or the prawn suit in. So it's functioning kind of like a moon pool in that way. So it's very much so being a mobile base. So it's very distinct, very clear role differences between the two. And so that's kind of like, that's where they came from. Now, the Cyclops could also be quite buggy at points with how things are kind of attached to it and whatnot. It is large. It is clunky. Very different controls. So you get over to the Seatruck and Below Zero, and so this is kind of the initial basis, so now we can start building comparisons and whatnot. So the Seatruck is fulfilling both roles of the Seamoth and the Cyclops. You cannot build inside of it, but you can make a wide variety of modules that allow you to be able to do mostly the same sorts of things. You can't make a garden inside of it, but it has like a module that will automatically acquire fish. It has a module for a bed. It has a module with fabricator. It has a module for storage. And it has a module that lets you hook up the prawn suit, so you can haul the prawn suit around. And you can make your... I don't know if there's a maximum number, like a maximum length. I haven't tried to find the maximum length, but if you want to put on like 3 storage modules onto the back of your Seatruck to just have more hauling capacity, you can do that. It's quite versatile in that way with this module system. But it also creates some ambiguity. Now you can just leave the modules floating off wherever and kind of do a thing where it's like, oh, you hold the whole thing somewhere. Kind of like if you take the Cyclops with the Seamoth inside of it, like it's actually way more versatile, right? Because you can have the prawn suit on the back, and then you have the Seamoth, or like the Seatruck on the front. You haul them somewhere, and you can disconnect the Seatruck from the rest of the modules and take that off like the Seamoth. So it kind of is like you're able to have the Seamoth and the prawn suit inside the same bay in the Cyclops at the same time, which is actually a lot more versatile, but it's not obvious. And this is one of the things I think is a big downside of the Seatruck. Despite the other thing is, I think the Cyclops is like on the surface cooler to people than the Seatruck is. But the fact that you have a lot more versatility, but it's compartmentalized, or like it's very compartmentalized versatility. But also it can kind of make you think of it as like a unit where you take the Seatruck out with all of its modules, and you don't think about the fact that you can just drop the modules and take it by itself for a little expedition from that if you want to. At least that's my experience. Is it took me it wasn't until I really started thinking about it that it sunk in that, wait, I can just take this off like the Seamoth and leave the modules behind for a bit if I want to go explore that way. So that's like it creates some ambiguity in terms of role that way, and I think that is a potential downside of it. The other thing that I think is really cool about the Seatruck style is it does create more of a path, more of a progression. Because in Subnautica, you go Seamoth right into Cyclops. I mean, prawn suit, different function, right? But with the Seatruck, you get this module unlocked, and then you get this module unlocked, and this module unlocked. So it creates a little bit more of a stages of progression, which I think is really neat, and creates a slightly different pattern of gameplay. I will say something that I was thinking about as I was thinking about this topic yesterday, I guess, is that it would have been really cool, or maybe earlier today, it'd been really cool to have some sort of base component that allowed you to hook modules up to it. So you could have like a base powering the Seatruck modules. And I think that would have been a really cool way to allow you to like haul a base basically around and snap it in somewhere without like building out a full base, kind of like making smaller outposts. or potentially like temporary things like that. I think that would have been really cool. But anyway, that's game design theorizing stuff. So yeah, I just think there's not a whole lot more to say, but I just think it's really interesting to kind of think about the way that they kind of fit in different roles and some of the pros and cons to it. So just kind of go into a little bit more. Some of the cons with the Cyclops is it is really large and clunky and hard to get places, but it also is much more invalidating of bases to some extent than the Seatruck is. Although the Cyclops really does want you to make bases to restore your power cells. So, one final note is I am a little sad by the dramatic reduction in the number of upgrade modules you can make. I don't know why they decreased it so much, but from Subnautica to Below Zero. But anyway, that's going to be it for me. Thank you all very much for watching. Remember to take care of yourselves out there. Do a better job than me. I wore sunglasses the whole time. I feel like I got this superhero mask look going on around my eyes. Oh well, that's how life goes. Take care, everyone, and goodbye.